Yesterday, of course, we discussed early talk of a $4 billion plus stimulus package to boost Australia's construction industry amid fears this pandemic will send many builders and trades to the wall. But that's not all the industry wants. They say they need construction employers to have their existing industry awards updated, including scrapping penalty rates for Saturday morning work so that workers are paid the same rate Saturday morning as a weekday morning. It comes as the industry warns up to a third of businesses could shut down in the next year unless action's taken soon. But of course the unions, well, they're opposing the changes, with the CFMU Construction Division National Secretary Dave Noonan saying they won't cop the pandemic being used to attack wages and conditions. That's just opportunism. Sky News Political Editor Andrew Clennell joins me now from Sydney. Big focus on construction this week. You were talking about what you were hearing in early sort of murmurings about a stimulus package. We think that might come sooner rather than later, don't we? But now there's also a push by the industry for changes in relation to the Saturday morning pay award. Yeah,
and I guess it shows when Scott Morrison got up at the press club, Peter, and said, I need to get employers and unions in the room. He knew what was coming with a lot of these distressed industries, that there would be demand from business to change conditions. And he needs to attempt to get the unions and workers to understand that this is necessary in order to hang on to jobs. And it's no small challenge. But in terms of residential construction, everything I hear from people in the industry is it is really, and in government, in fact, it is really dire. They're talking about it going off a cliff. They're seeing the signs now. The problem, obviously, is confidence. And if you don't have construction going, that affects manufacturing as well. There are so many flow-on effects. It's 6% of the GDP, the home building. So we know, I mean, we've revealed there's definitely going to be some form of new homeowner grants. Now, the industry wants 50,000 and says much less than that won't have the effect that is required to stop this thing going off a cliff. And we know that the biggest industry on the JobKeeper scheme, for example, at the moment are construction workers. And the speculation is the grants will be at least 20,000. Well, one other question is, will they just be straight cash grants, or will they come through the existing system of the GST you pay for new home builds and therefore come back as a bit of a rebate, with other speculation that renovation's being considered as well, as long as it's over a certain level. The only other point which seems to be in the mix is the suggestion it could be means tested. Well, the industry doesn't want these grants means tested, but there's a lot of suggestion the government does. So all that's to shake out in the next couple of days, I believe. We have the GDP figures, the national accounts tomorrow. We might see the housing announcement Thursday.
OK, well, that's the best steer I've had all day on the timing of it. And I think they probably will be attracted to a GST mode to deal with it because it's just neater, simpler and less liable to have rorts. I must say I'm very lukewarm on the whole idea of the renovations being in this package, but we'll see what happens there in coming days. There's something else I want to highlight too, because I think this will be likely supported by the community. I think it's just good, smart, common sense. But on the back of the military response to COVID-19, there's a new rapid response military team being set up. They're calling it Joint TASKFORCE 629. And this is going to be a permanently established entity, so it can react quickly, not having to be stood up, case by case. We've got floods, bushfires, hurricane cyclones, the whole gamut, and obviously then viruses that are not likely expected again, let's hope it for some time. But that's the purpose. Lieutenant Colonel Jim McGann, one of the ADF's most experienced soldiers. This is a smart idea.
It makes a lot of sense and seems to get out ahead of what recommendations Mark Binskin might make in his Bushfires Royal Commission, Peter. There's absolutely no doubt that we were caught short somewhat with the response to the bushfires in January. And even though the fires were being fought, there were people stuck on the ground without food, fuel, electricity and so forth. And the Army Reserve was required to help with that. So that was the Army Reserve, admittedly, not the military. But as you point out, we've seen the military assist with floods, cyclones, all the rest. Appears we might be seeing these weather conditions in the future. So why not have them ready to be deployed?
Yeah, I think it's terrific. I'll try and see if I can't get Lieutenant Colonel on the program, just have a chat with where he sees he's headed in terms of scope. Joel FITZGIBBON, I'm a bit interested. You know, he's on the right and Albanese's on the left, and he's been quite, you know, bolshy coming out of his near-death survival at the last election. A lot of his coal workers in the Hunter stood up and were counted and pushed him pretty hard. Well, he's had some pretty, you know, ambitious comments to make today on a policy front in relation to the vexed issue of climate change targets. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, we've had a number of elections where the Labor Party has attempted to sell a more meaningful climate change policy to the electorate, and we've lost.
Now, this was last night, but clearly he's saying we keep pushing that. We're not likely to win elections if we're not where the Australian public are. Is he marking out some territory against his leader, do you think?
To his leader and his colleagues. I think that's the easiest, and I guess to his electorate. But I think there is an issue here for Anthony Albanese. He saw what that did to Bill Shorten. That's why he's gone for the long-term target, not the short-term target. He doesn't want the scare campaign around this. He doesn't want, you know, Anthony Albanese is going to give you another carbon tax. But Anthony Albanese's closest friends in the caucus are people like Mark Butler and Penny Wong, people who would go to the left on this policy. And we know the lay membership of the party, who now have half the say of who is elected leader, are also out to the left on this. So Joel FITZGIBBON and his colleagues, who he calls the Otis Group, are trying to make sure Anthony Albanese doesn't head this way, because they think that will lead to another election loss. And that will be a very interesting internal dynamic for the next couple of years before the election, Peter.
Yeah, fascinating. We will watch that closely. And that was Q&A last night, not comments today. Thanks for your time, Andrew Clennell, as always.